Well, as the Senate gets ready to hear testimony from President Trump's Supreme Court nominee, the president is busy blasting the federal justice system for daring to prosecute his allies. The president tweeted yesterday, 2 long-running Obama-era investigations of 2 very popular Republican congressmen were brought to a well-publicized charge just ahead of the midterms by the Jeff Sessions Justice Department. 2 easy wins now in doubt because there's not enough time. Good job, Jeff. The Justice Department declined to comment when asked by the New York Times. The president's claim is false in that the insider trading investigation of Congressman Chris Collins stemmed from actions he is accused of taking 5 months after the Trump administration began, including messages that prosecutors say Collins sent in June of 2017 while he was at the White House congressional picnic. A handful of Republicans in Congress reacted with dismay to the president's tweets. Senator Ben Sasse of Nebraska said the United States is not some banana republic with a 2-tiered system of justice, one for the majority party and one for the minority party. These 2 men have been charged with crimes because of evidence, not because of who the president was when the investigation began. Senator Jeff Flake replied, "This is not the conduct of a president committed to defending and upholding the Constitution, but rather a president looking to use the Department of Justice to settle political scores." Through a spokesman, Speaker Paul Ryan responded to CNN, "DOJ should always remain apolitical," and the speaker has demonstrated he takes these charges seriously. Willie, it's almost boring because at this point his tweets are so unimportant, but you get a sense of where he's trying to take this.
Well, you get the sense, Benjamin Wittes, once again that he views the Justice Department as an arm of the government that's there to protect him and not to take out its duties of protecting the Constitution and carrying out criminal justice. We've seen this time and time again, and it dates back to March of 2017 when Jeff Sessions recused himself from the Mueller investigation. That was the original sin for President Trump.
Yeah, so the tweet is pretty astonishing because it incorporates so many of his attitudes, that the purpose of the Justice Department is, not to do impartial justice, but to protect his friends and punish his enemies, to advantage him in elections, right? And certainly not to do something that would disadvantage his favored candidates in an election. And, you'd think that even if he believed these things, he'd have the decency to be a little bit ashamed of it, but he's not. And so he just says them out loud. One problem with doing that is that, if you happen to be a special counsel looking for evidence of corrupt intent, it's hard to get better than the president saying that the purpose of the Justice Department is to, help you electorally, and that the Attorney General really should pony up on that score.
Yeah, that's one, Gene Robinson, that when the president is tried for obstruction of justice and at a future time, I'm not, I'm just a dumb country lawyer, but I would kind of mark that one as Exhibit 1. Yeah. You look at the timelines. I've seen great lawyers, worked for some great lawyers that put together trials, and when they start putting together timelines, it's, and you just get your arms around all of this information, but it gets clarified when you look at the timelines, and then you just sit there and look at it on the wall, and you're like, oh, my Lord, this is not good news for the defendant. And I've got to say, Mika said something really interesting. She said it's almost boring because we've seen this act. This is like a nostalgia act. This is Elvis in 1977, just sort of loafing through the hits, that we all know what he's going to say. We all know where it's going to go. And it seems to me, if he fired Sessions, the Senate wouldn't confirm another attorney general. So it's just a useless threat right now. All he's doing is building the obstruction of justice case against him. And you just have to sit back and in wonderment and almost laugh at just how ignorant he is.
Yeah, I mean, how many times does he have to, in public, obstruct justice before we get the message? We know about Donald Trump. We know who he is. We know about his corruption. We know about his craziness, his inability to exercise any sort of self-control. And that's who he is. He's unfortunately president of the United States, but that's who he is. And so, you know, in one sense, it does get kind of boring because you could, you know, you've seen it before. You're not surprised by it. In another sense, we have to, I think, guard against being bored by just such a clear transgression of any norm, any of the way our system is supposed to work. It's just really incredible. And so you can, I mean, look at the future timeline. They may be able to constrain him from firing Sessions before the midterm, but he's sure going to do it right after. So we should all be ready. I mean, this was a fascinating few days we've had, because we had those two funerals, which were the Aretha Franklin funeral and John McCain funeral, which were both sort of portraits, pageants of America. They were as American as they could be, the America we know we live in. And then we have Donald Trump, who is this sort of alien force that has the powers of the presidency right now and is very difficult to dislodge.
Queen of Soul versus the soul of America versus some sophomoric joke that pretends to be president. We got to cover it, but it's over.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.